really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you here today. It's great to be able to follow a colleague and a close friend, Michael Murphy, who I was actually involved with in the early days in the Torex adventure. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the next producing copper mine in the Yukon, which is a former producing mine, which in my view has been underloved and underappreciated. But we've reset the future of this opportunity, in partly because it went into bankruptcy in an unfortunate set of circumstances in May of 2023. What I'm here to talk to you about today is how we're going to reset that future and work from a very strong foundation of capital in the ground, infrastructure that's already there and available, a substantial resource that's already defined and described, and the first publicly traded mining company in Canada where we have a 23% shareholder being the First Nation that owns the land that underpins this asset. This is maybe a model for the future, but it is a point of circumstance that we're going to take advantage of. And the reason to start off with this photograph is a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can see here in front of you, this is the state of the facilities and the asset as we have it today. You've got the camp facility on the right-hand side, the central milling and processing facility in the center there, 4 historic pits, 2 of which are in the screen in front of you, 1 further off into the back. And then also importantly, since 2023 in May, when it went into care and maintenance and closure again, the government has not been sitting on its hands. They've done over 60% of the reclamation and rehabilitation work on this site, which sets us up for the future very well. So who is Selkirk Copper? We'll talk to you about that a little bit forward here. Obviously, we're going to be making some forward-looking statements. It's a compelling opportunity that does not come along very often. I've been in this industry now 35 years. I've had the chance and the opportunity to work in North America, Europe, South America, Africa, and Australia on a whole range of different opportunities with the Cominco Limited Group and the Tech Group of companies here in Canada. And what we see here in front of us is a reset. 2 things on this slide, and the most important probably financially, is that we've eliminated a significant gold, silver royalty or streaming arrangement that existed on this asset from 2007 to 2023. The bankruptcy extinguished that. So we now have a reset on that side of things, and this is worth about 40% of the revenue line that was not there and available to previous operators. That's been extinguished. The second part is the previous operator drilled about 82,000 meters in 2021 and 22. They never had the chance to update that and incorporate that into an updated resource. We have the platform on which to pursue a 15-year mine plan, and that's what we're doing. It's a fairly simple capital structure. Probably the most important and notable piece of this, we started trading on November 4th after a successful RTO business amalgamation and relaunch of the company. Selkirk First Nation, who owns the underlying land, they acquired the asset out of bankruptcy and worked with us to form this company. They hold a 22.5% share equity going forward. That's fundamentally important in terms of how we think about the asset and de-risk the permitting and re-permitting going forward. Where are we? We're in the central Yukon. There are 2 parts of the Yukon. There are the infrastructure advantaged parts and the infrastructure disadvantaged parts. We happen to be in the infrastructure advantaged part. We are on the Klondike Highway, 250 kilometers north of Whitehorse, road accessible, power, grid power, camp and facilities already built. And then as you can see in this complex table about indicated and inferred resources, we have substantial resources that we're adding to as we speak. Where are we in terms of the comparable valuation? As with any news story, our job is to educate the marketplace about the opportunity. We've started off where we are now, but just as a reminder, our current market cap is just about $100 million Canadian. We've traded up since November 4th from 56 cents to 84 cents on Friday. We continue to get the story out there. But remember, over $300 million has been invested in the above ground facilities at this asset. We acquired this asset for less than $6.5 million. So we have an opportunity to really rebirth and not have to invest all that capital. We just need an execution plan. picture's worth 1,000 words. I'm not going to go into this in much more detail, but suffice it to say, we've got a very large drill database. We're adding to that. We started a 50,000 meter drill program in August. We're about 32,000 meters into that, and we are now just releasing those results as we go. You can expect that sort of news flow to fill the pipeline here over the next 4 months, and it's all driving towards a PEA mid this year, which will be the first updated economics on this asset since 2021. The camp's in good working facility. We have water treatment capacity, etc. And very importantly, we have a fully functional mill and processing facility ready for the restart. It's not just about a restart, it's also about presenting ourselves the opportunity to think about this district differently. So this is the Minto-Carmacks belt. We currently control the claims in the yellow. That's about 27,000 hectares of land, and that's surrounded by First Nations Category A lands that we're also working to complete the first new modern exploration programs in this belt outside of Minto and Granite Creek to the south. It's important to know 390,000 meters of drilling has been completed on this property over time. 95% of that is in the Minto mine, small blocks in the middle. Very little has been completed outside of that since 1971. We do have a few key milestones that we're working towards. We've already achieved what we thought we could get done. As I said, we'll be completing this drill program in the end of March, targeting a PEA mid this year, a restart decision or direction to follow later in 2026, and then the completion of a feasibility study and a restart decision in mid-2027, all with the view to be back into production, 30,000 tons copper equivalent by mid-2028. So again, sometimes proof is in the pudding. You know, we worked with the First Nation here through a very complex bankruptcy proceeding. We earned their trust over 2.5 years that resulted us in raising $45 million in the latter part of last year. We have now deployed that money in the form of drill programs, engineering studies with Hatch and SRK working on our behalf. We've already completed 32,000 meters of that drilling. The first assays continue to come out, and they're essentially telling us what we hoped. As I said, a big re-rate opportunity here is this preliminary economic assessment mid-year. And then lastly, and very importantly, we now have a newly elected government in the Yukon that is definitely right of center, that has a positive view of integrated and thoughtful redevelopment of assets in the Yukon in a part of the world that had some stub their toes, if you want to call it that, over the last number of years. Our opportunity here is to do it just a little bit different. And with my background and the team and the support of the broader community, we're already well on our way. What are we going to do different? And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this, but I'm a geoscientist by trade, metallurgist and mining engineer by practice, and sort of corporate leader, if you want to call it that. But I've always come from a place where boots on the ground are important. Let's go to the asset. Let's make sure the engineering teams, the community leads, the finance team, and the business development folks understand the asset for what it is. Let's go to the Yukon. Let's go to the asset and give it its due. And then secondly, we're not in a rush. We've raised enough money to get through this work in a methodical and thoughtful way, and it's going to get us where we need to get to. And then lastly, not to sort of leave it to the end, but geology is obviously the underpinning of everything that we do. The resource in the ground is a critical aspect of this, and there are some exceptional grades here in rocks that are probably not fully understood. What we do know is that they're coherent, they hold together, and that over decametric widths, both in open pit and underground configurations, we're getting up to 10% copper over those sort of widths. And then in certain areas, we're getting up to about 40 to 45 meters of around 1 to 1.5% copper. And on a copper equivalent basis, it's looking more like 2%. So we've got the foundation, we've got the platform, and we have the opportunity to sort of change our stars on this asset. But we don't need to be in a rush. We just need to plan the work, execute the plan, measure twice, cut once, and get on with it. We do that right, we will be the next producing mine in the Yukon, and arguably we will be the next producing copper mine in Canada and largely North America by 2028. Thank you for your time.